You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Down 20-59 and then on a foot pursuit before being detained in Tuscaloosa County. For the latest breaking news in West Alabama, visit TuscaloosaThread.com.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, good morning, everybody. It's a brand new week. Welcome into the Gary Harris Show for this Monday, September 9, 2024. I'm your host, Gary Harris. Chase Brumfeld is my main man right there on the other side of the glass, manning the controls, taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. And what a weekend it was for football. Starting with high school football on Friday night, had some unbelievable games. College football Saturday was incredible, and then the NFL in full speed for the first weekend with, of course, games on Thursday and Friday night, but then yesterday, a lot of incredible games, fantastic finishes, and then tonight we've got Aaron Rodgers back with the Jets taking on the San Francisco 49ers. So we'll dive into all of it head first. There's so much to cover this morning. My head is still spinning, trying to track it all, and keep up with it. But that's my job. And had a busy weekend, of course, with Alabama on Saturday and Saturday night. And we'd set up to do a live shot outside the stadium. Couldn't get the live shot, so I had to hustle into the station, get up to the newsroom, and grab a mic and jump on the air there. And then last night anchored the 10 o'clock news again for the second straight Sunday night on WVUA 23, which was fun. And then, of course, today we got press conferences with Kalen DeBoer, Nick Sheridan, and Kane Womack, and Alabama prepares for its first road test coming up this Saturday morning at Wisconsin. So a lot to cover on the show. This hour of the Gary Harris Show, as always, brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. It was a pleasure yesterday afternoon, I guess about 4:30 or so, to share a dinner with Steve Swafford, the CEO over at Billy's Sports Grill in historic, beautiful downtown Northport, Alabama. And he and I had dinner and talked about a lot of stuff. Of course, the credit union is just absolutely phenomenal, and they sponsor the first hour and have for a long time here on the Gary Harris Show. Alabama Credit Union, your trusted partner for financial success. Embrace financial well-being with Alabama Credit Union. Find out more at alabamacu.com. That's alabamacu.com, or get by and see them at one of their many locations around the great state of Alabama, including the home office right here in Tuscaloosa. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership, then join today and feel good about your money. And pull extra change in your pocket. All right, busy Monday. Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. Going to break down everything Bama football at 9:30. And then Casey Smith on golf at 10:30. Also, Kalen DeBoer had his press conference. It was late Saturday night. The game didn't end. That was a long game. The game didn't end until, I think, around 9:57 p.m. So we've got Kalen DeBoer for you this morning, too, after the game, his comments. And the game, boy, we'll dive into that. It was an interesting game, to say the least. But what a Saturday it was all the way around for Alabama football. You had the dedication of Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. The Sabans were there at 2:30 to do their own version of the Walk of Champions, the unveiling, speeches. And then again at the game, they were recognized and honored, and it was lit up, Saban Field, and a lot of his former players back. It was just an unbelievable event. And then the game was I will say that it was interesting in the context that going into the fourth quarter, I was worried about Alabama winning the game. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, going into the fourth quarter, you're worried about Alabama winning the game. It's 14-13. But give the Tide credit. They outscored South Florida 28-3 in the fourth quarter. They finished. But for much of that game, there's no other way around it. It was sloppy. We'll hear from Coach Sheridan. I still am trying to kind of figure out what the offensive game plan was. Of course, obviously, I guess if you block better up front, maybe it looks better. But throwing the ball down the field, I get it. I get it with Milroe. He's a really good deep ball thrower. But you've got playmakers. And the one thing I'm going to say right off the top, if I've got number 2, and listen, they got other good receivers. I'm not saying that they don't. But Ryan Williams is a special talent. Everyone that watches football knows that. To me, you go into the game with a game plan and he's going to get X amount of touches. I'm sorry. I just think that's and you don't have to be, everything doesn't have to be down the field. I mean, there are jet sweeps. There are direct snaps. There are wide receiver screens. There are different ways to get the ball in his hands more often to give him an opportunity to make plays. I didn't see that. I know a couple times they tried to go to the screen game and it just didn't. One time they did get the screen to Miller, but the way that they were bringing pressure all night, I didn't think Alabama did a good job from a play calling standpoint, and this is just my opinion. And Nick Sheridan knows more football than I do, obviously, but it just didn't appear that they did a good job of trying to alleviate that pressure and make South Florida pay for the pressure. And defensively, they got a lot better, I thought, as the game went on. Early on, let's just call it like it is. If you're playing against a lot of these quarterbacks in the SEC, you're going to be down, 2 or 3 touchdowns because they had guys running wide open that the quarterback just missed. I mean, they knew. Give Alex Golesh and his staff credit. They attacked Alabama's DBs. Alabama was up playing a lot of press coverage, and they just ran right by them in the seam on the outside, and the quarterback missed some throws. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. They had 2 or 3 touchdowns that were right there for the picking, and thankfully they didn't hit those. Now, on the flip side, Alabama had 2 touchdowns called back, and I know Will Conformity, the right tackle, appeared to struggle, but I'll say this too. Looking at some of those calls, my gosh. I mean, that SEC officiating crew didn't do Alabama any favors, in my opinion. I mean, there was one time the defensive end was just falling down, and Wilkins just kind of pushed him to the ground, and they threw a flag on that. So, but my point is, Alabama had 2 touchdowns called back, including that 74-yard run by Jalen Milroe that would have put Alabama up 21-6. It probably would have been a different game. So both teams are going to look back and say we had opportunities. At the end of the day, Alabama pulled it out, but it was a nervous game, and you're sitting there. I was sitting there in the press box thinking to myself, Chase, that, oh Lord, if Kalen DeBoer loses this game on Nick Saban Day or dedication of Saban Field to a team that's a 31-point underdog, can you imagine what it would be like this morning here on this show or around the state? I don't even want to think about how ugly it would have gotten. I don't even want to speculate because it didn't happen. Thank goodness. And listen, I'm glad Alabama tacked on a couple of touchdowns. I'm not going to lie to you. They weren't throwing the ball, but that they busted the run game because 6 weeks from now, if you're in the hunt for a top 4 spot in the playoff, 42-16 is going to be the score. And that's going to look a lot better than 21-16 or 28-16. It really will. But man, a lot to clean up. The good news is they won the game. Now they get ready for the road test at Wisconsin with a lot to work on. A lot to work on. I mean, Alabama's got to get better. And I think that they will. So anyway, we're jam-packed with content. As far as the NFL, we follow the Titans, the Falcons, Saints, Panthers, teams that are right here in the South and all of NFL. But Titans figured, snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. I mean, the Bears had less than 150 yards offense. Caleb Williams didn't even throw for 100 yards, and the Bears won that game 24-17 without scoring an offensive touchdown. The Dolphins pulled one out. The Jags were about to go up. They were up 17-7, about to go up 24-7. Trevor Etienne is going into the end zone and gets the ball punched out. It goes out of the end zone, too, so the Dolphins have it at the 20. And then Tua hits Cheetah for a long touchdown. The Dolphins come back and win. Lions pull one out last night against the Rams. Cowboys spanked the Browns. Falcons prove they're still the Falcons. I mean, what can you say? They just looked awful. All that hype about the offense and playmakers everywhere. Steelers went in there and just destroyed them. Falcons are still trying to block T.J. Watt. But what a weekend of football. And, hey, listen, I might as well go ahead and go and say it because I took my medicine after going 8-1 and doing a victory lap last week. I went 3-6-1 on my SEC picks. And, still, I'm 11-7-1 for the season, but had a losing weekend. Of course, people didn't mind letting me know about it. Hey, like I said, that's why I don't bet. I just do it for entertainment purposes only. But I'll say this, the one push that I had shows you how This is why I don't gamble. Arkansas was catching 8. It had moved up to like 9 or 9.5 or 10 before the game, so it would have helped me. But the only way that they could not cover, and they pushed, the only way that they could not cover was to have the game go into double overtime and give up a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. And of course, they did both. And so they only got a push out of that. All right, I tell you what, the phone lines are backing up. I know people want to talk. So we're going to go ahead. We've got Tom, Philip, and Joe all on the hotline. So let's go ahead and take Tom in this segment, and then Philip and Joe will get to you guys on the other side. Good morning, Tom. Hold on, Tom. I can't hear you. Hang on, let Chase punch you through. He's catching phones left and right here. So hold on just a second. All right, go ahead, Tom.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you. Which phones are ringing off the hook. Go ahead, my friend.
I got you. And I won't be long. I wanted to complain about the referees. I thought they were moronic and that stupid and throwing the flag every time you turn around. And then on top of that, South Florida waddling around on the ground. It was obvious they wasn't hurt. They lay there on the ground 5-10 minutes, then jump up and run off the field. Then 2 plays later, they back in the game playing. And just stupid stuff going on with that refereeing bunch. That bunch ought to be carried out and executed today. They don't need to wait till Lamar. Do it now and get rid of. Put them out of our misery. And I just never seen anything to beat the quality of refereeing in my life. They were pathetic with their calls, and I feel sorry for Wilkin Formby. They're gonna ruin that kid with their stupid stuff, and that's my thing about the game right there. Letting those players walk around on the ground like that and not calling them, or not even going over there and talking to the coach about it.
Yeah, I thought in real time those holds were sketchy, but at the same time, they called them. But I'm with you. I mean, I'll say this. I said this during the game. South Florida can't come in here and complain about not getting a fair game. I mean, Alabama got 120 or 30 yards in penalties, so they can't blame the officiating. And I saw still Danny Cannell was trying to do it, but I thought if you're South Florida, you're very happy with the officiating in that game. I mean, down the Auburn.
Nobody believes anything Cannell says. Nobody believes anything he says.
That Auburn Cal game,
liar.
It's 21-7 game, and that last drive that Auburn scored on, I mean, the officials might as well just picked up the ball and put it in the end zone and spiked it for them. I mean, the calls that went against Cal on that drive, 2 pass interferences. The last one in the end zone wasn't just questionable; it was brutal. Where they picked off, so Thorne threw all those interceptions. They got one taken away. They called a pass interference in the end zone on a guy who didn't do anything but catch the ball, and then Auburn scored their touchdown. That's the only reason they were in the game. But that's another story. We'll get to Auburn. That was
Hey, I wanted to say this too. You think Coach Saban's getting on game day and promoting all these people? I think he's trying to get some people back with rat poison. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe so. And
I think he is. I think he put a little rat poison on Auburn.
Yeah, he may be. He may very well be. So that's he's a master tactician on the field and off.
I guarantee you.
So who knows? Because he went on there and on game day, Coach Saban said, I'll still contend that Saban gives his honest opinion, but he said Auburn was going to be somebody to have to deal with in the SEC, and he pretty much said he thought they would blow Cal out, didn't he, Tom?
Well, he's been wrong on all his picks.
It goes to show you maybe it's easier to coach them than pick them. So I can tell you that. But it was,
Gary, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. It was an exciting weekend. All right, we need to get to the break. All right, when we come back, we've got, in the order that they came in, we've got Philip, Joe, and Bryce. So you guys hold tight. We'll get to you in the next segment. Rodney Orr from Tider Insider TV and TiderInsider.com coming up at 9:30. Casey Smith on golf at 10:30. We'll hear from Coach DeVore. But I know the phones are going to be active this morning because Alabama won. But boy, not without a lot of nerves. We'll be back with more of the Gary Harris Show here on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama sports. As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special, Monday through
at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV. And there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at VaxAssist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Visit alabamacu.com to learn more. Some rules and restrictions apply. See if you're eligible for membership, then join today and feel good about your money. Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions, both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside on the beautiful patio. Come by and say hello to Kim and Lisa, the Billy's management dream team. Billy's, good food, good friends, and good time.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A big warm-up today with a sunny sky, the high 88. Clear tonight, the low 64. Tomorrow, sunny with a high at 89. Wednesday, increasingly cloudy. Rain moving in by Wednesday night. The high Wednesday at 84. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
You're listening to the Gary Harris Show. For Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
9:19, welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. We can't dilly-dally around, as they say, because we've got, let's see, again, Philip, Joe, Bryce, and Pat in this segment. So let's get right to it on the Pinnacle Park at North River hotline. Hey, Philip, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Gary. I'll be quick. I know you got a lot of calls, but there was a time the other night after they'd been calling all the holding calls where we were watching the game, and I watched the referee. I guess he'd be the line judge. I don't know, but anyway, he watched Wilkin Formby on a couple plays in a row, to the point where he followed through with his head, and he followed the play through, and we're just eyeballing him the whole time.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I thought the same thing. The only thing I can figure, because I'm trying to read into it, because I thought the whole where the kid slipped was brutal call, and I thought the one on the Milroe touchdown was iffy. The only thing I can figure is the official saw something on video. And went to Wilkin or went to the coaches and said, listen, he's getting his hands outside the shoulder pads and we're going to call it or something, because it just seemed like you're right, that they were looking for something on him. And, that crew, by the way, is the same crew that had the Iron Bowl in 2019 and gave Auburn the untimed down at the end of the first half to kick a field goal that wound up being the difference in the game, by the way. But then because I kept thinking either Alabama's going to do adjust, because they weren't holds from the standpoint of just, obvious holds. And, I had a hard time figuring it out too, but it was tough, on Wilkin because, it did seem like that they were watching him specifically. And so I don't know, but I noticed that too and felt the same way, Philip.
Mm-hmm. The other call, though, to me that was more egregious than just about anything was the targeting call on our linebacker. I felt like that was a shoulder. The quarterback ducked down. So
nothing you can do. Listen. It's absolutely a horrible rule, but it is the rule, and you're right. The defender can do anything. I thought the one was even worse in the Auburn game. The kid with the Cal hit the guy with his shoulder, and they called it targeting. But in Justin's case, there's nothing he can do. I mean, he's lined up to make a big hit, but that's where we're at in football. You get accustomed to stuff that the minute there's a boom hit. In other words, a bingo type hit, as Coach Bryant used to say. Bingo, the first thing you do is look for a flag. And even if there's no flag, then they're going to stop the game and they're going to review it. We're just conditioned now that when there's a big hit, there's usually going to be a penalty with it. It's a shame, really. I'm sorry. I don't like it. I've never liked it. I understand straight targeting. In other words, when a guy leads with his head for the purpose of launching himself, I get it. But when you're just trying to line up and square up and hit a guy and he ducks his head at you and there's contact, there's nothing Justin Jefferson could have done. And now he's going to miss the first half of the Wisconsin game. It's a joke. It's bad football. They've changed the game to the point now where you just almost feel like every time you'd rather just have a pull-down tackle, because if there's a big hit, you're worried you're going to get a flag.
Yeah. Gary, well, also a little bit, change the subject. Saturday was just a tremendous day for the history of Alabama football and the renaming of the field. I loved how grand everything was, and it was regal. Do you know if there were any overhead drone shots of that ceremony?
Yeah, there is and I posted on my Gary Harris WVUA 23 Facebook page. There is a shot that I took off the Alabama football account. It's about 20 seconds, between 15 and 20 seconds, and it is an overhead drone shot of the stadium when it was lit up, Nick Saban Field, which is beautiful. So yeah, there is some video. There must be more, but that was the shot that I found.
Yeah, I was talking about outside the stadium that afternoon. I want to get that blown up because I'm sure I'm in there. I just was wanting that for personal reasons, but I just thought I'd get the community.
Yeah, I'm sure there are some, just keep an eye out on your socials and, check the Alabama football accounts on Twitter and Facebook, and I'm sure there are some, yeah.
All right, Gary. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you, buddy. Bye. All right, let's keep it rolling here. That was Philip, and now let's get to Joe in Dothan has been holding the second longest. Hey, good morning, Joe.
Good morning, Gary. I'll be quick. I agree with everything Philip said and Tom. The officiating is just atrocious. And what makes me want to pull my hair out, Gary, is this: if it's so awful, throw a flag on the field. This crap about stopping it when there's been no penalty flag thrown and calling a horrible call from the booth. I mean, it just absolutely makes me want to vomit. It's just. They are ruining the game of football with this stuff, and I'll get off my soapbox about that. As far as the offensive line play, Gary, it's concerning. I realize we had to shuffle some people around, but I'll go back to the one you mentioned, the one where Formby, the guy just fell down, and they called holding on Formby. But Gary, the 74-yard touchdown run or whatever it was by Milroe, I thought that was a phantom holding call, too.
Yeah, I tell you what happened there, because I went back and watched them because I thought they were sketchy. The one where the kid's falling down, I don't know what Wilkin Formby's supposed to do, is just move out of his way and let him get back up without, he did what they're taught to do, which, hey, you've engaged him, he's on the ground, get on top of him and not let him get up. The only thing I'll say on the Milroe call, which I thought it was a stupid call, too, but Milroe was passed. He was gone. So if you're Wilkin, just let the guy go. I mean, at that point, there's even no reason to be engaged with him. Because his hands, I didn't think it was a hold, but his hands were outside the shoulder pads a little bit. And a lot of times, especially if they're looking at you, and they seem to be looking at him, I wouldn't have thrown the flag. But at that point, just don't even engage the guy anymore. But you're right. How can you play offensive tackle if you're worried about every time you engage with a guy, they're going to throw a hold on you? And hey, listen, and that call on the 74-yard touchdown run, that's a huge call in the game. Because you and I both know, Joe, if that stands, it moves to 21-6. That game's probably going to get ugly after that. But that call comes back, and suddenly the next thing you know, you're punting from deep in your own territory, and it's game on. So that was a game-changing call, in my opinion.
No doubt. I completely agree. And, I'll be interested to see how we haven't played a road game yet. So I'll be interested to see how the O-line and the offense deals with this noise coming up on Saturday. Hopefully we'll respond and play well. But I tell you, I can't leave you without mentioning this, Gary. A funny thing happened on the way to the Barners resurgence, didn't it?
Boy, I tell you, they sure fooled me. I gotta sit here and say it, because I had a couple of people when I took Auburn minus the 13 said, hey man, I can't believe you took Auburn. I said, hey man, I gotta pick these games based on how I think they're going to play out. But, and I didn't get to see much of it, but we were in the press box and I got to see a good portion of the fourth quarter. And you talk about some questionable officiating. Like I said, that final drive where Auburn got it from down 21-7 to 21-14, they threw I think he threw 2 picks on that drive. They got overturned for pass interferences. I know one in the end zone did, and then they got a targeting where the guy led with his shoulder. Like I said, I thought the official might as well just pick up the football, place it in the end zone, and then spike it. But Cal was better. You know, at the end of the day, Cal was just carved them up. Auburn's fortunate that was just a 7-point outcome. They got outplayed in that game to the point that it easily could have been a 14, 17, 20-point game.
Well, and you weren't the only one, Gary. Ryan Fowler has that parlay pick contest. I had Texas covering, I had Tennessee covering, and I had Auburn covering.
Well,
I'd much rather Auburn lose than win a contest. It was
a tough. I think for Bama fans, that's a good thing. If you pick Auburn, if they lose, you still get some enjoyment out of it. Hey, I got to get some other calls on. Good to hear from you, Joe.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, next up is going to be Pat. Hey, good morning, Pat.
Hey, good morning, Gary. First off, are you sure that Saturday was not actually February the 2nd, Groundhog Day?
They have struggled with that team 2 years in a row, and you know what? USF, because it's a 2-for-1, USF is going to come back in 2 years. So hopefully they got 2 years to get ready. Hopefully in 2026 we'll have a different outcome.
I hope that quarterback and that defensive back that they turned into a outside linebacker / defensive end are gone. But man, he gave us fits all the way around. Yeah. And, I tell you what, though, but hats off to them. Hey, and to their fans for driving up. Their fans, hey, they made noise, and they had me upset the entire game, in third quarter.
Yeah.
And I hate that last touchdown that we scored. I mean, they just couldn't, and I really think that Coach DeBoer did not want to pour on that last touchdown. That I feel like that they just had no answer for number 22. I mean, and he
I think eventually what happened in that game was that, you know, once South Florida was right in it, but once they saw that they weren't going to win the game, and Alabama wasn't trying to necessarily score, but again, you can't, you run the football, you run for 2 touchdowns. I think USF finally lost a little bit of their juice, but give them credit, man. They, well-coached team that came in here with a good plan, played hard, and gave Alabama all they wanted. And, you take the W and you move on and you try to fix some things and you get ready to go on the road, man. That's the way football works. Turn the page.
Yeah, exactly. But, my good from that game, though, was the fourth quarter program. It really, really seemed to show the amount of work that the Alabama players had done in their fourth quarter program. Would you not agree?
Yeah. I think they've done a nice job with that. I think that they're a well-conditioned team, and I think that if you can win fourth quarters, more times than not, you're going to win the game. And that's what happened in this game. It's anybody's game, but when Alabama had to have it, they got it done. And what you hope to do now is take that fourth quarter and learn from that and try to say, hey, man, we got to start the game like that. And I think they will. Hey, thank you, Pat.
Hey, one quick thing I'll let you go. I did read where that the Pope had called all of the Cardinals back to the Vatican, that they're having a conclave. You don't have a conclave when you pick a new pope, but they got to pick a new coach at Notre Dame, and I heard they're trying to figure out what art they can sell in order to get Coach Saban to South Bend.
All right.
Thought you'd like that.
I love it, Pat. Thank you, my friend. All right, let's get to Bryce here before we close out the segment. We're over Bryce, but wanted to get you on.
All right. Listen, we're just going to have to clean up the penalties. And Milrose's going to have to quit holding the ball too long, and you can't turn the ball over there because you will get beat when you play a good team. But for Auburn, I've been saying it all year. I'm going to go back. I don't see 5-6 games winning on that schedule. I see maybe 2 or 3 if they can continue to play like they played Saturday.
Well, we'll see.
They don't have a quarterback, and I've said that for 2 years.
Yeah, you did. You have. And they've certainly got to make a decision on whether they're going to make a quarterback change or who's the freshman they got? Hank, is it Hank Brown? Is that his name?
I don't know. I don't keep up, Auburn. You know that.
You call and talk about him a lot. So.
Well, I'm just telling y'all, I'm proving a point, Gary. I've been telling y'all this for 2 years. They don't have a quarterback.
Yeah. Hank Brown's the guy that's the highly touted young quarterback. So maybe they go to him. But no, you're right on. So far, so good, Bryce. You've called it.
But no point in the game I thought we were going to lose to South Florida. I thought we needed to pick it up, but I didn't know we wasn't going to lose. I said, well, how we're going to win the game, but how much is what I was thinking. Well, that's what it was last year. Just the same thing.
I'm glad you felt that strongly because I did have doubt whether they were going to win the game. I'm not going to lie to you.
I picked them straight up because of the coaching staff and the talent we got. I picked them straight up on pick 2 for West and them show.
Okay.
Show. And nobody else picked them.
Well, good stuff, Bryce. You're on a roll, dude.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir, man. Hate to cut you short, but we got to go. We'll be back with Rodney Orr next year on the Gary Harris Show. We'll be right back.
Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure
208-8642. 800-208-8642. That's 800-208-8642.
Follow Tide 100.9 on Facebook today to watch our live shows, read the great articles, and interact with Bama fans today.
9:36. We're running a little bit behind because of all the phone calls, but we wanted to get them in. It's time for Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. Tider Insider TV for his weekly Monday visit on Alabama football, and gosh knows we got a lot to cover this morning. How you doing, Rodney?
Hey, Gary.
Another reminder Saturday night that you never take winning for granted. It's hard to win, and give South Florida a lot of credit. 2 years in a row, they've given Alabama everything that Alabama could handle, but you'd much rather be coming on this morning talking about making corrections after a win than a loss, and Alabama had a dominant fourth quarter. Let's not overlook that, 42-16, but the game was much closer than that. You were sitting there next to me in the press box. You've had a couple days to digest it, put out your post-game report. Monday morning takeaways now from that game before we look ahead to Wisconsin, what you saw against South Florida.
Yeah, basically I would say pretty much the same thing I said last week after the first game. Is I wouldn't get too overexcited or, down about maybe some of the bad things that you think you saw. I mean, these are the first two games. This is a new staff. These are players that I think they're all still adjusting. And I think there's a lot of things that are going on out there in terms of learning, some of the things that they can do. And then, but also, too, I mean, when you have the shuffling that they've had on the offensive line, makes it really difficult on everyone, the entire offensive line, and then it has an impact on, the defense as well. Alabama ran, 68 plays, and South Florida ran 82. So I think the defense was put into difficult situations. I thought they responded really, really well. There's a lot of things, obviously, that have to be cleaned up. The penalties, you had 13 for 120. I mean, that's a, terrible stat. But on the flip side of that, how about Alabama's third down defensive conversion? 2 of 18. It's pretty incredible. I think I saw a stat where, in these first two games, the two opponents are 14% on third down. That's amazing. You think 30-something%, maybe 33% is pretty good, but 14% through the first two games. So, there's some good things that we've seen early, and there's some things that aren't so good, but I think now, as we start to move forward to Wisconsin, they probably have a much better feel about where they are, some of the things that they want to do. I think DeBoer made a really interesting comment when he said that these types of games are needed, not because they're a wake-up call, but because you raise the standard. So I think, they really learned a lot about this team. And now as they move forward to Wisconsin, it's going to be interesting to see some of the things that they do, some of the adjustments that they make, and, how they kind of move forward.
I want to ask you about the offense, everything from the game plan to the execution to, some of the plays that looked like they might have been there. But first of all, Alabama did have a hard time blocking them up front, okay? And they brought pressure, a lot of it. And there's so, different ways to dissect it. I'm not a coach. I want to ask you what you think, whether it was, did they not have enough short passes called? Was Jalen holding the ball too long? But it appeared that offensively they just had a hard time getting in a rhythm. They weren't running the ball well earlier in the game. They ran it better late. And it just seemed like the offense was hard. It was hard, and they made some plays, but all night seemed to just be fighting it. And they were, running the play. They weren't playing fast. They were running the play clock down before they would snap. And I guess my question is, when you're struggling a little bit like that, there seems to me with the playmakers you have, there would be some built-in plays to get those receivers touches, whether it's jet sweeps, whether it's, wide receiver screens, whether it's, just, you got playmakers, particularly Ryan Williams. It just didn't seem like, other than taking shots down the field, that the game plan included getting those guys touches early in the game. I was having a hard time figuring out exactly. Now, give the defense credit. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. Maybe they made it hard, but I just had a hard time figuring out what the offensive game plan was, Ronnie. So I'll ask you, because I watched it, and I'm like, I just can't really figure out what they're trying to do on offense.
Well, I think, they probably have some things in the bag that they haven't used. And then, these are things that they're going to build on, that they'll use. We didn't see a lot of motions, shifts, those types of things, which is a real staple of DeBoer's offense. There's a reason or reasons why they probably haven't done that as much in the first couple of games. Maybe we see more of that. Maybe we see some of the things you're talking about. I've seen a lot of the screen game that they're working on, or they've worked on. We saw it in camp. They did a lot of those things. For whatever reasons, they didn't use it that much in this game. There's probably several reasons. Again, you're talking about offensive line. You've got 3 days to get these guys ready because you had to make some quick adjustments.
And that is a great point. It's very true.
Yeah. There's probably a lot of reasons. And let's say this, too. I hear a lot of people, and I see it on TiderInsider.com, well, why didn't they do this and why didn't they do that? And they're not calling plays to suit Jalen. Well, first of all, Jalen Milroe has said repeatedly that they meet and they've talked about plays that he's comfortable with. There's probably some things right now they might not be doing because they're going to go with what he feels comfortable with, what they see that he's comfortable with, and what he says he's comfortable with. So I don't think they're not calling plays to help Jalen. It's kind of overall. I mean, you got to look at the big picture. So I think, again, like I said in the first intro there, Gary, I think moving forward, they found out a lot about themselves and maybe what they're going to kind of start moving towards. You're always constantly evolving, as an offense or defense or whatever. But I think now that they have these 2 games under their belts, kind of moving forward, hopefully they can get the offensive line where they want it, the best 5 on the field, who they feel are the best 5 right now, and then move forward and start kind of becoming more of what they want to do, what they feel, fits his personnel.
All right, let's get to the defense because I think you made a great point. 82 plays is a lot of plays to be out there on defense and to only give up 309 yards and 16 points. Now, early in the game, they got caught flat-footed. There's no doubt about it. South Florida had a good plan, and they had guys running free, and the quarterback missed them. Might have changed the game, but they didn't hit those. But I thought as the game went on, they adjusted well, and like you said, the third down defense was phenomenal, but you're on the field 82 plays and you go 309 yards and 16 points. You'll take that. You'll take that, Ronnie. That's winning defense at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, they had their backs to the wall a few times. And, again, when your offense isn't possessing the ball, you start to wear down a little bit. But yeah, there's some things, obviously, like you said, they have to clean up there, Gary. I mean, I know, Xavier Brown early on, he got beat down the field a couple of times. I know that later on, Red Morgan earlier in the game too, also got caught downfield a little bit. And then on a wheel route, I know Deontay Lawson kind of was behind the play. You hit 2 or 3 of those. I mean, it's a team like Tennessee, they're probably going to hit those, right? So, but it's good because Kane Womack said this. He said it a long time ago. He said it in August camp. He said, look, we realize we're going to make some mistakes. You saw those, right? You saw those secondary mistakes. But what we want to do is we got to play these guys. We got to get them out there. They're young. They're going to make these mistakes. We're going to take some lumps, but we've got to learn from that. And I think you made a great point there when you said as the game went along, they did a much better job. So, again, those are learning experiences. You get out with a 42-16 win. Not great. Didn't look good. It didn't look good last year either. Might have even looked worse last year. But I think there are a lot of positives. And now, again, I'm really kind of interested to see when they go to Wisconsin, what are kind of some of the things that they want to emphasize offensively, things that they want to do. And I think we'll start getting closer to becoming, seeing more of what they want to be this week.
Let me follow up on that because, again, I mentioned Ron Williams, and listen, Bernard had a nice game. Obviously, Kennard Law is a playmaker. They've got other playmakers at wide receiver, so I don't want to diminish those guys. But number two is a special talent. I mean, there's just no other way around it. He's a special football player. You don't see many like him come through. And he's got 3 touchdowns in 2 games, and he's getting downfield, and he's catching the balls, and they took some shots at him, took some deep shots with him early. But I would love to see, from my perspective, I wonder if you agree, like I said, just guaranteed touches. Say, hey, whether it's a jet sweep, whether it's a wide receiver screen, just ways that we're going to guarantee that number 2 touches the ball a certain amount of times. And like you said, maybe they've held that back. I just think a guy like that, as dynamic as he is, needs to be touching the ball more. Your reaction to that?
Well, I mean, I'll be shocked if it doesn't happen. I mean, as we move along, I think we're going to start seeing more of that. Again, I think you use these first 2 games, you've got to learn a lot about your players. I mean, and not, you say, well, they've been practicing. Well, practicing and playing in a game, how they respond in those situations are 2 different things. I think that, obviously they've known what number 2 can do with the ball, right? They know that it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out how special he is with the ball in his hands. And I think they're going to get the ball in his hands. And I think you're going to see other guys, like you mentioned, Jeremy Bernard, who in the first game only caught 1 ball. I think he caught 4 in this game. Kobe Prentice is started to kind of emerge now a little bit. He had a couple of catches, had the touchdown. I think we'll see the tight ends become more involved, not only as receivers, but also in the run game, where I think there late in the fourth quarter, we started seeing more tight ends on the field, and they started running the ball really effectively, as you mentioned. I think we're going to see maybe more from the run game. These are just different things that I expect, but I mean, it hasn't all come together yet, but I think, again, as we evolve, this is a process that you're going to see, Ryan Williams get those touches that you're talking about.
You mentioned one thing, and that is if they could get Proctor back at left tackle, it would solidify that offensive line. Booker did a nice job, I thought, moving out to tackle, but he needs to be a guard. And you as you said, whether people want to admit it or not, that was a makeshift offensive line on Saturday night. If you get your left tackle back, whether you go with Formby or at Pritchett at right tackle, you get Booker back in there at guard, and you're kind of set on that offensive line. That will, I think, Rodney, make a big difference in this offense when, as you said, you can kind of get your offensive line set.
Yeah, and it's, again, it's playing together. It's cohesiveness that you develop from all these, experience of playing together. And that's why now when you have these shifts that have to take place, your personnel, you're moving them around. You've got Proctor, who hasn't even played a snap yet, and we're going into week 3. So eventually when he gets on the field, and then, Pritchett's been moving back and forth between left and right tackle, which eventually will plays a dividend because he can play at both sides. But, you've got to get whoever you feel, those 5, you've got to get them on the field consistently. And again, you can't just, wave a wand and make it happen. Proctor's been hurt. Pritchett was banged up in this game. That's why he didn't start at the left tackle spot. So I just think once they can get that settled and start developing some cohesiveness there, the sooner the better. And hopefully, that's this Saturday against Wisconsin. Then you have a week off, and then, Georgia comes. But again, in a way, it's unfortunate that you haven't had that in the first 2 weeks, so they could be a lot farther along. But it is what it is.
All right, let's get to Wisconsin, because you know what? They haven't looked great their first 2 games. They beat Western Michigan 28-14. That was a close game. They beat South Dakota 27-13. Tyler Van Dyke is another one of these quarterbacks that seems like he's been playing college football for 10 years. They had big expectations for him. He's been okay. He has not been great. But you and I both know that they're going to be jacked up. You know, they're going to be seeing this as an opportunity to make a statement. It's going to be a test for Alabama. And I hope people understand that this is going to be a first road game of the year. You're not going into a little small stadium. You're going into a big stadium where the fans are engaged. I think Wisconsin will be ready. I think they'll play their best game. I think Alabama's better than Wisconsin, Rodney. I think you'd agree with me on that. But just your not a score prediction. We'll save that for Tider Insider TV tomorrow night. But just your feeling on how this game is going to go.
Well, I've been talking about it since probably early summer, just looking at the schedule and talking about it on TiderInsider.com, and how this game kind of shapes up. And you go up there, it's a first road game with this coaching staff. It's a new experience. It's an early morning game, 11 a.m. It's a long way from home. It's an unfamiliar territory. I mean, and I say all that, you go to College Station, Texas, that's really tough. That's a difficult place, for example. You've been there before, most guys. You played there before or whatever. You're familiar with it. This is a little bit different. It's going to be a different atmosphere. I think the weather is going to be, Gary, in the high 60s? That'll be a little bit different. But it's an early morning game, and on the road like that, I think there's always some things that that play into it, things such as that. Ultimately, Alabama has better players. I don't think there's any question about that. I do think that Wisconsin's a well-coached team. I think Fickell is a great coach. They've been very good on defense in different places where he was, did a fantastic job at Cincinnati, obviously getting them in the playoffs. So they're going to be well-coached. They're probably going to be really fundamentally sound and all of those things. They're going to have a good crowd. They're going to have a great crowd. Camp Randall's known to be pretty raucous at times. So all of those things, I think, make it a real challenge. There's going to be a lot of noise. Alabama's already had some communication issues already up front because of some of the shifts. And again, if Proctor comes back and let's say Pritchett starts at right tackle, once again, you've got change on your offensive line. It's change. Proctor hadn't played yet. So there's a lot of things to think about in that, that go into this. So, I think it's going to be a real challenge because I'll tell you this too. You can tell me what you think. And that is, I'm pretty sure Fickell has been working on Alabama quite a bit in these last 2 weeks and prior to that. So, I think a lot of time has probably gone into Alabama because I think that's the game that they've kind of had circled here early in the season.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think they put a lot of work into this game, and they got through those first 2 games, which what they were trying to do, and they're coming out Saturday with a feeling that you're right. They can establish themselves this season with a win. All right, before I turn you loose, just anything on, seems really quiet on the recruiting front. Anything of note there?
No, not really. I know they offered a couple of more defensive linemen I saw, Gary. And again, I'm not really familiar with those guys yet, be honest with you. But the point is that this just happened. But the point is that as we said along, there's going to be guys that emerge this fall. There's going to be things that happen with guys that committed to other schools as we move along that are going to say, hey, they have a renewed interest in Alabama, or Alabama's, got a renewed interest in them. And then all of a sudden things kind of evolve. But so again, I think Alabama's sitting well right now. But things are going to continue to kind of progress along. And I think that it's going to be interesting to see as we get, again, October, November, just where things sit.
Excellent update as always, Rodney. And, give us a quick word about where people can, obviously TiderInsider.com, but different things that you got going on.
Yeah, TiderInsider.com. It's only $48 a year. You can get instant access with your credit card if you prefer. There is an address there to send a check. That gives you all our premium information, but also our all sports forum. And I mean, Gary, it was buzzing yesterday. It's already started back today, kind of like your show. And our book, Bigger Than Bama, of course, it's available at rodneyorr.com, or you can go to Amazon, either one. Check it out there. It gives you all the details.
Thanks a lot, Rod.
Okay, bud. Take care.
All right, 9:54. We'll come back and wrap up this first hour of the Gary Harris Show, being brought to you by Alabama Credit Union, and we'll do that right after this.
With Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on Monday afternoon, starting at 2 p.m., we're going to recap the Alabama-South Florida game with all the Kalen DeBoer audio clips. We'll talk to Drew DeArmond. We'll talk to Barrett Salee. We'll talk to Martin Houston right here on the game. T-Town Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build your own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after hours.
Taylor Electrical sounds really customer friendly. How can I get in touch with y'all?
Just call or text us at 205-553-0958.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily happy hour specials. And for the best Mexican cuisine in West Alabama, remember, the name is Los Tarascos with locations in Tuscaloosa and Northport.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A big warm up today with a sunny sky, the high 88. Clear tonight, the low 64. Tomorrow sunny with a high at 89. Wednesday increasingly cloudy, rain moving in by Wednesday night, the high Wednesday at 84. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:58, and we're going to wrap up this first hour. Hey, a note on Who's Q and Brew over off Highway 82 in Tuscaloosa in the Northridge Center. They're starting karaoke night this coming Wednesday, 7:30 to 9:30. That's going to be a blast. And, of course, food specials for game day each week. So check out the menu there at Who's Q and Brew. And get on over there Wednesday night for karaoke. I might have to put in an appearance myself. They call it karaoke when the kid's there, but I can break it down. All right, thanks to Alabama Credit Union for bringing you the first hour. We'll be back with hour number 2. Plenty of time for phone calls, plus Kalen DeBoer and Casey Smith on golf. Hour number 2 is on the way.
And W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Nick Cope.
On Sunday Night Football, the Lions persevered in overtime against the Rams, 26-20. It was David Montgomery with the game-winning 1-yard touchdown run. Detroit actually led in this one 17-3 early in the third quarter. Then the Rams reeled off 17 straight points, held a brief lead, but the Lions engineered a 2-minute drive in the fourth, tie the game with a field goal and force OT. Matthew Stafford, 317 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Detroit receiver Jamison Williams led with 121 yards and a score. 3 head coaches won their debuts on Sunday. Gerard Mayo and the Patriots upset the Bengals 16-10. Mike McDonald and the Seahawks held off the Broncos 26-20. Jim
Price, save up to $700 plus a free adjustable base with select Sealy mattresses. Get matched at Mattress Firm. Sleep at night. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.
Now, this hour's West Alabama real-time news update from the Tuscaloosa Thread Newsroom.
A Minnesota man has pleaded guilty to shipping counterfeit pills that secretly contain fentanyl to a Tuscaloosa doctor who fatally overdosed after taking them in 2022. In addition, The Tuscaloosa Metro Animal Shelter needs help again. A week after reopening to the public in the wake of a distemper outbreak, the shelter is already too full. And the University of Alabama will honor head coach Nick Saban by naming the field after him. Check out this photo gallery of every championship won by Nick Saban. You can read about these stories and more at thetuscaloosathread.com.
Get 24/7 local news coverage and sports updates when you download the free Tuscaloosa Thread app and sign up for twice daily email newsletters. The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, here we go. Another hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show. I'm having a little laugh there with Chase and didn't even have to say a word. He just, I crack myself up sometimes. Let me just say that. Hey, listen, good hour coming up here. We got Casey Smith on golf coming up at 10:30. We're going to try to get some of that Kalen DeBoer sound, but phone calls have been hot and heavy, so we're going to go ahead and jump right back out on the phone lines. And here's my main man, Ellis. I keep missing Ellis in Tuscaloosa. It's hard to catch up with me. I'm so busy, and I think Ellis, when he gets here, he's got a full agenda too. Good morning, Ellis.
Good morning there, Gary Harris.
I was hoping you'd get by Innisfree on Friday.
I'm going to do that, the Georgia game.
Okay. Pat was looking for you, and Steve from Raleigh were all looking for you. So we had a nice little. Even though I went. I'm 9 to 11. They don't even open till 11. But people were ready, waiting at the door. As soon as we opened the doors at 11, they came in, and a few people were able to get in through the side door while I was doing my show. So we had a good time.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
Well, what'd you think of the game? Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, that's all I can say. I didn't give up on them, and I wasn't worried that we was going to lose.
Well, I'm glad you weren't, and a couple of our callers today, because I was.
I wasn't worried. And truthfully, I'm telling you the truth, I wasn't worried.
That's good. I was worried.
I knew we was going to pull it off, but like I was telling Chase a while ago, you were talking Rodney Orr just a while ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know all them players were displaced in different positions.
Yeah, the offensive line was a makeshift, there's no doubt. I mean, it was makeshift, but
see, I didn't know that.
Get healthy, you had, because you had Proctor out, and then Pritchett didn't. So you had Booker move out to left tackle. Vandermark was in at guard. So you had only probably 3 of the 5 guys that you're counting on to play. So yeah.
And look how much better that the running game was when Pritchett come in.
They did start pushing it downfield a little bit more. Yeah, they had a little more success. So yeah, they're going to be fine. I think that and Wilkin Foreman is going to be fine. I think that he had a tough night, and as I said, I thought a couple of those calls were a little bit questionable. But he's a young player now. He's just a redshirt freshman, and he's an offensive line's a developmental position. And I think he'll be okay. But yeah, in the short term, it'll sure help to get Proctor back, though. It really will.
Oh yes, and like you said, he's a freshman. So he's learning.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
We got to give him time. And I'm like Rodney. I think that the playbook will open up here soon, and they'll be using, like you said, tight ends. They'll have different plays for Ryan Williams, so I'm just I'm gonna sit back and watch.
That's what we do. Every week is its own. The season is made up of 12 weeks. It's like a book with 12 chapters. When you finish one chapter, you move on to the next one, and that's the way football is.
Right.
Man. You win or lose, you got to come back. And the challenge for football teams and as fans and sportscasters, we're going through our weeks and we're waiting to see the game on Saturday. But the game's not won or lost on Saturday. It's really won or lost during the week, and that's when if you're a good team like Alabama, really the preparation, how you prepare, what you do. is going to be, the outcome we're going to see is going to be on Saturday, but it's what they do during the week. So they need to have a good week of preparation, and I feel like they will. And I think they're going to go up there and play well on Saturday.
Oh yeah, and it's a process, like Coach Saban said. It's a process. You get, but having a good practice, that means. First and foremost, that means, like you said, if you don't have a good practice, I don't think you're going to play that good that Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
But having them people out in them different positions, they get back where they belong and everything. I think everything will calm down and we'll be okay.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I got to tell you one more thing. I was at the doctor's office today because I had to have blood work. My blood pressure was good, and the lady was happy because she said she bases that first blood pressure check on the whole day. So she said, my whole day is going to be off the chart good because your blood pressure check was good.
Well, that's awesome, Ellis, man. Always, praise the good Lord. That's important. Yeah.
And I seen a ex-Tennessee cheerleader that lives here in Coffee County. And she was at the doctor's office, and I sat down beside her talking to her and everything. And before I left, I said bye to her. And I go, oh, yeah, by the way, Roll Tide. She goes, I knew you was going to say that.
Well, hey, listen, that's what Bama fans do. And, they say go Vols, and it's
so everybody got a kick out of it in that whole office.
Yeah,
so,
well, you the Bama man there in Tennessee. So, all right, Ellis, good to hear from you, my friend.
All right, Roll Tide, and I'll get a hold of you. But, yeah, I plan on coming down so I can do your show, Wyatt's, and do the midday show.
I hear you, my friend. All right, looking forward to it.
All right, Roll Tide.
Thank you. All right, it is 10:11 here on the Gary Harris Show. All right, enjoying the back and forth in the next segment. Always, we're going to prioritize phone calls, but if we don't get some phone calls in the next segment, we're going to try to get a little bit of that Kalen DeBoer audio from Saturday night. But right now, in addition to Alabama, and I mentioned my point spread picks went south after going 8-1 the first week in the SEC. I went 3-6-1, and after the game's over, we all look back and say I should have, but I mean, Arkansas should have covered. I mean, wouldas, couldas, and shouldas don't mean anything, but that would have made it 4-5, and instead of 3-6-1, that would have been a little bit better. I mean, that's just a disaster that they didn't cover. The only pick I really regret was the Tennessee pick. I intended to take Tennessee, and I actually talked to somebody that's a football guy that lives up there, and I bought into the fact that he felt like that NC State was going to play a really good game. But other than that, the picks I made, I thought I felt good about them at the time. I felt good about Alabama. I felt good about Auburn. I wouldn't have picked them. So that's the way it goes. But getting back to the Auburn game, because I tell you the thing that, again, I didn't get to watch much of that game, but I don't know why I felt so confident on Auburn. I just did, and I thought that they were better, and I don't really know what to make of that. I don't, because from what I could tell, Cal outplayed them the whole game. I mean, this wasn't one of these, Auburn outplayed them, went up down the field. Cal, again, from what I saw, it probably should have been a bigger outcome for California in the game. They controlled the line of scrimmage. Their quarterback in the first half was phenomenal, Mendoza, and they went on and Auburn, as I said, was down 21-7, and they got that late touchdown to make it, give them a chance to win. But when you look at that touchdown drive, it was aided by calls from the officials. Meanwhile, Peyton Thorne, when you go 14 for 27 for 165 yards with 4 interceptions, and could have been more if had a couple taken off the board. Jarquez Hunter, your best running back, statistically had a pretty good game, 12 carries for 68 yards, but he had a fumble, which was costly. And then those young receivers, this wasn't Alabama A&M they were playing against. I mean, and Auburn didn't run a lot of plays. You know, Cal played keep away. Cal controlled the football, controlled the time of possession, kept the ball away from Auburn. And then when Auburn did get the ball, their defense, the Cal defense, more times than not, forced a punt pretty quickly into the possession. So there wasn't a ton of opportunities for Auburn in the game. But it was disappointing for Auburn people, I know, because you looked at having these first 5 games at home, and I even said it, you know, the possibility of a 5-0 start, and really the only game that you were even looking at is a possibility of a loss really was Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma struggled this week. And you got Arkansas, who looks a little bit better, but they didn't win. So maybe Auburn bounces back and still goes 4-1 to start the season and 2-0 in the SEC. They're going to beat New Mexico. Now, you say, well, New Mexico State. But New Mexico State last year was a better football team than New Mexico is this year. So Auburn's going to win on Saturday. And then they get back-to-back SEC games at home against Arkansas and Oklahoma. Let's go to Birmingham and talk with Tony on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. Good morning, Tony.
Hey, good morning, Gary. You know, I liked your segment a lot with Rodney. And I couldn't agree more with everything you said. I hear a lot of fans say this. I don't know how true this is, but do you think, Gary, they're being a little vanilla on offense, Alabama?
I don't know. That's what, you know, Rodney does. I don't know. I do know this. This is not what I expected to see from this offense. We heard so much about motion and playing with tempo, and we didn't get any of that the other night. I mean, we got, basically they lined up and played from a formation, and they ran the play clock down before they snapped it. And, most of the pass plays were down the field. And so I'll just say that. I don't know if they're being vanilla on purpose, but it's not the offense that I expected to see. Now, it doesn't matter what I expected to see. They're going to do what they're going to do. But I thought the other night, and this is just my opinion. It doesn't mean I'm right. We all have opinions. I couldn't figure out what they were trying to do on offense. I couldn't figure out what the object was on offense in terms of the game plan. It just seemed peculiar to me. And again, I understand they've got other playmakers, but all I know is, in my opinion, when you got a guy like number 2, who I really think Ryan Williams is a generational football player. I mean, David Palmer, Julio Jones, those kind of guys come around once every, so amount of time. I know this. I'm going into every game, and I'm the offensive coordinator. I'm saying this guy's going to touch the ball this minimum amount of times. And, I look back at David Palmer, who was a little bit different kind of player, and Gene Stallings was known for as simplistic offenses as you could have. But one thing Gene Stallings understood was, I got number 2. He's going to touch the ball. Yep. He's going to return kicks. He's going to return punts. He's going to play quarterback. He's going to get, we're going to throw him the ball. We're going to hand him the ball. We're going to snap the ball to him. He's going to touch the ball a lot. And so for me, I'm going around the world to answer your question. Whatever the game plan is, I'm saying to myself, 2's going to get the ball more than he's been getting it. He's got 3 touchdowns, which shows you how good he is, because he hasn't touched the ball that often. So whatever the game plan is, 2 needs to touch the football more, in my opinion, Tony.
Agreed. And at any rate, higher percentage plays to number 2.
Right.
Not
exactly.
just throw the fade up, But another point, I've always been taught that you pass to score, you run to win. And the only way that I can see Alabama being vanilla, like a lot of people say, is if they get a lead early and they want to sit on the lead and they run the ball simplistically to win the game. In other words, you can run the ball to win because you're just overmatching the opponent. I didn't see that. I did not see that this past Saturday.
For 3 quarters, they hardly ran the ball.
Yeah, they didn't run it effectively at all. And you're exactly right. And that is concerning to me because I just have to believe that you want to take the lead in those kind of games, put them away early, and don't give them any hope. And we didn't do that until and it's a combination. Yeah, he might have made that big of a difference as far as the right tackle. But I think also, too, I think South Florida's a little bit out of gas. And so it was a combination of some things. But, Gary, we cannot you can't fumble the ball like that. You can't drop the ball on a kickoff return. I would love to see number 1 get the ball more Is that what's his name?
Kendrick Law. Yeah.
Kendrick Law. He's a ball player.
Yeah, he is.
And we've got to figure out ways to get him some balls. Some, like you were saying, some Devontae Smith type plays back when Sark was here. We need to open it up just a little bit. Maybe we are keeping it vanilla. I don't know if we're going to have to be extremely exotic this weekend as well against Wisconsin. I could see us beating them not fairly handily, but I think it might get away from them at the end if we don't make mistakes. You just cannot make those mistakes and keep a team that's hungry and got good talent. They're going to find ways to score, and they did. And luckily, we only held them to one touchdown. Because, Gary, some of those throws, better teams, Tennessee will eat Alabama alive.
Yeah, that offense obviously is, goalish came from the Tennessee. That's a very similar offense to what Tennessee runs. And when you play that quarterback and those receivers, those are going for touchdowns. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
I thought Alabama did a nice job adjusting, but early in the game, and give South Florida credit, they just said, listen, we can run by these guys. And Alabama was playing up in coverage, and they went by them. And you're right, you hit a couple of those, and it could be a different game. At the same time, if that 74-yard touchdown run by Jalen Milroe is not called back, it's probably a different game. All of a sudden, it's 21-6.
It is.
And so it goes both ways. But the bottom line is Alabama needs to play better, and they're going to face, I don't know how good Wisconsin is. My feeling is they're not great, but I know this. They're going to be well coached. They're going to be prepared. They're going to be physical, and they're probably going to try to shorten the game some. So you had better be ready to match their physicality, because they are going to be a physical, disciplined football team. You're going to have to beat them. They're not going to give you anything. So Alabama better be prepared for that.
Well, I'll ask you one other question, but I'll give you my opinion first. I was going to ask you what you wanted to see improvement-wise out of Jalen Milroe, but the one thing I want to see him do better at, Gary, I want to see him step up into the pocket instead of stepping right or left into the tackle or the defensive end coming around. Sometimes he leads the blocker. He's running into him. When you watch him, when he drops back into a passing window and the pocket starts to wrap around him and he steps up into the pocket, he's sharp as a tack now. He delivers the ball and he delivers it accurately. When I see problems with Milroe when he gets outside the pocket and he kind of doesn't know whether he wants to throw it or run. And that's just, you can't, I like Milroe, and I think he's a good quarterback. You just can't take 14, 15-yard sacks either.
Yeah, and that was a bad play. The one we took the 18-yard loss. I thought all in all he did a good job. I thought that early in the game, particularly, Alabama was having a hard time blocking him. And that's easy. That's tough on any QB. And they were bringing pressure. And, that's why I thought the coaching staff could have done a little better job of adjusting to that and having some stuff in the arsenal to get the ball out of his hands quicker. But you know what? You live and learn. I'm sure they're going to work with him hard this week. I got to hit the break, Tony, but good to hear from you.
All right, buddy. You too, man.
All right, thank you. All right, listen.
Distributors in Tuscaloosa, Coleman, or Decatur, or call All Phase Electric Supply in Albertville and Huntsville for an on-site evaluation and recommendations for optimizing your lighting.
Find Tide on Twitter @Tide109 to keep up with show announcements, guests, and our reporters in the field.
And we were having a lot of fun this morning, and this is what happens when you have Alabama football. When Alabama blows somebody out, people are kind of low-key, just expect. But when you struggle, it gets people going. All right, and if we get a chance to get to Kalen DeBoer audio, we will, but we're not going to do it at the expense of phone calls. So we got Roland and then JD. Roland over in beautiful Lake Guntersville. Hey, good morning, Roland.
Hey, Gary. Pretty much enjoyed the game of the day. We got to go and had great seats on a lower level, about 48-yard line, 50-yard line. So we really enjoyed it. But I agree and I know what Rodney said, and I agree with him on that too. But I thought the game plan was kind of terrible. I mean, and I think South Florida probably had a good game plan, but you got to, the way they's rushing, don't you have to have some hot receivers, dump it down to and all that to kind of slow that up a little bit? I mean, it didn't seem like we took advantage of that. And I guess, that's one of my disappointments that, and I realize that, against South Florida, you're probably going to not show everything, and I understand that. But it just seemed like our game plan was not a real good game plan to help Jalen out on a lot of stuff. And I was disappointed in that. And What did you think about the crowd? I thought the crowd was really, really great. I mean, it was loud. And, you know, Bryant-Denny, I hadn't been to a lot of stadiums across the country, but I don't think you find a stadium a bit more prettier than Bryant-Denny at night, especially. It's just gorgeous.
I thought the crowd was awesome. I thought the crowd was into it. I thought they were jacked up for Saban Field. I'm with you. It's a beautiful, beautiful stadium. At night, when that place is lit up, it is absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, can't disagree with anything you said. I thought the atmosphere was top notch. I thought the fans were into the game. I thought when Alabama, needed them, when the game was close, they were loud. They made it tough on South Florida to run their offense and eventually put Alabama away. I also, as I've already said, I'm with you on the offensive game plan. I just, again, and I don't know exactly what I'm seeing. So, but it appeared to me that, the game plan was just, it was curious to me. That's all I can say. I had a hard time figuring out exactly what, of course, again, give their defense credit, early in the game, particularly stopping the run. Because if Alabama got the run game going, it would have been a lot different. But they had a hard time getting that going, and then they had a hard time blocking them when they were blitzing. So it made for a very dysfunctional type of game. I will continue to say, though, if that 74-yard touchdown run by Milroe doesn't come back, it probably goes differently. If they get it to 21-6, but it did come back, and it was a struggle. But give Alabama credit in the fourth quarter. They finally wore them down, and the run game got going, and they made some plays and got the win. And you put it behind you now and get ready to go on the road to Wisconsin. About all you can do.
It's a strange game, and that it could have and I know penalty is part of it, and I know the fumbles and all that, and you can't take them away, but you got to play a cleaner game than that. And if they play a cleaner game, the score's probably 52-17 or 52-21, something that score. And I want to say one quick thing about I know Joe was talking about the targeting call, and Gary, what are you supposed to do when the ball carrier's running?
I don't know what you can do, like we've talked about.
And you go tackle the guy.
There's not much you can do other than live with the result. And they're gonna call you for targeting, and you're gonna get thrown out of the game. And if it's a second half, because you got to try to make the play. So it's just one of those things. I know they're trying to make the game safer, but at times you're just a victim of unfortunate circumstances. The ball carrier lowered his head. Yeah.
You go tackle the guy, and the running back lowers his head.
Yeah, it is what it is. But that's the rule, and as soon as they went to the review, you knew that was probably going to happen. So there's, again, you try to educate them the best that you can to hit with your head up and use your shoulder. But when a guy ducks his head and you have that contact, but they're throwing people out of the game, Roland. So that's just the way it is.
Okay, Gary, enjoy it.
Thank you, my friend. Good, always good to hear from you. All right, let's close out the segment with JD. Good morning, JD. JD may be calling back in right now. He might have got cut off because he was not there. We'll see if this is him. If it is, we'll take it. If not, we'll get on to the break and come back with Casey Smith on golf. And because, it's an interesting time in golf. President's Cup coming up, kind of about to be in the fall swing. Most of the top players won't play many of these fall events, but it's a great opportunity for some of these guys, a bunch of the former Bama guys, to get back out on the course and make some hay. What we got here, Chase? All right, we're going to go ahead and get to the break. Before we do, though, a reminder, the YMCA of Tuscaloosa. As I always say, the Y is ready for you when you're ready for the Y. It's not going anywhere. It's right there at 2300 13th Street. The question is, are you ready to get on board and take the first step toward better health and wellness? If you are, go by and see them at the YMCA. Let them give you a tour of the incredible facility, meet the staff, and get signed up. All this month, through the end of the month, no joining fee. So you can just sign up, get started, get your monthly dues going, and be a member like I am. And you can use the personal training for 10% off all personal training packages this month, whether that's single training or duo training. Find out.
Price. Save up to $700 plus a free adjustable base with select Sealy mattresses. Get matched at Mattress Firm. Sleep at night. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, 10:34. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. We've been going football, and more football this morning. We're going to break away from that discussion for just a couple of minutes, although we may ask Casey about a little football too. But Casey Smith on golf joins us now and ready to go with him. Hey, good morning, Casey. How are you?
Hey, Gary, good morning. I hear the sky's falling in Tuscaloosa today.
A lot of concern, my friend, but hey, it's good. It's good for sports talk radio business. I can tell you that. So we've been lit up this morning pretty good. But hey,
I've heard, and I think that as a big of an Alabama football fan or Alabama fan as anyone probably out there, everyone just needs to take a deep breath. We won the game 42-16 against a good team. Will probably be I would suspect they're going to be a bowl team. And we made so many mistakes, right? So mistakes are cleaned up, and Milroe gets to running it more when needed, and we know we're holding some plays back. We got a good team. We got great players, got great coaches. I think just a little cleanup happens, and there was a lot of fanfare around that day, and so just a lot in play to still win 42-16. So
that's right, and you'd much rather be making corrections coming off a win, and so since you brought it up, and that's been the topic of the morning, this is a tough road trip coming up from the standpoint that you're going to be playing a disciplined team with a good coach, a tough physical team. I think Alabama's better, but what are you expecting out of this game Saturday at Wisconsin?
I mean, I think that if you see the team that played the fourth quarter for Alabama goes out and plays, anyone really for that matter, and I think they're going to try to build on that fourth quarter, then you're going to see Alabama be very successful, impose their will, control the line of scrimmage. Milroe's a stud when you get him running, and then you get, DBs on their heels, you get, defensive linemen retreating, and then you start running on them, and you can see what that run game looks like. So I would be shocked if we don't, win that game and win it. Maybe it's a pull away late and all that, but Alabama's better team, better players, better talent. I think it's a 3-touchdown win.
All right. Casey Smith's calling it. 21-pointer or 18-pointer, depending on adding the extra points at Wisconsin on Saturday. Let's get to golf. We got the President's Cup coming up in a couple of weeks in Montreal. Talked a little bit about it last week. And listen, I like the fact that this event is coming up. I know we're trying to build some momentum with it. It's never going to be the Ryder Cup, but the international team has gotten a lot stronger, and hopefully, they'll be competitive. When you look at Jim Furyk, the captain, unlike the Ryder Cup, he pretty much went chalk. I mean, he you had your automatic qualifiers, then he kind of just went down the rankings, it looked like, in terms of where they stood and picked his team. What did you think of the decisions by Jim Furyk to kind of avoid almost any controversy with taking someone maybe who's got a good history of this type of competition, but had not had the kind of season maybe that some other guys did? Although I'm still trying to figure out Max Homa on the team. I'm scratching my head a little bit. What did you think of this team, the way it was put together?
Honestly, I think it was sort of a lazy way to go about putting a team together. It was a very let's just take the path of least resistance. Seems like that's more of his personality. He's a phenomenal guy. I've met him a handful of times. He used to be with Callaway when I was. And he's got, obviously, a top-heavy team that are as good of players as there are on earth. You're going to have a hungry Keegan Bradley to even prove more that he was left off that team last year, and no one's more patriotic than him. And, as far as a captain's pick, but he did go chalk. And some of the guys, just because of the way it worked, like a Cantlay, he didn't have a great year in his standards. And so, you're going to hope that Scotty Scheffler and Xander Schauffele and Colin Morikawa and Wyndham Clark, those guys really keep the momentum going. I'm glad Brian Harman made the team. A guy that gets the most out of his game, a Russell Henley, someone, good to see some guys not make it. But I mean, if we're really trying to really beat Europe in the Ryder Cup, and the Ryder Cup is the big event, I would be using the President's Cup to our advantage, because they don't have that, to get players that might be studs.
Exactly.
That Europe, and we're all pointing to Nick Dunlap, right? Nick Dunlap makes the team if they count the win. And that's just a soft pick by, path of least resistance by him not taking him. I thought that was really just like, come on, right? And then really, truly, I mean, I'd say this. I think you probably did right because of what happened with JT last year. Maybe JT needed a break. JT's got a kid coming out, baby being born. But, like, you really do know that Justin Thomas is patriotic, fiery, give me him over some of the other captain's picks. And, you're expecting him to still be on future teams. I would have used this as an opportunity to go grab some guys who are studs, Nick Dunlap being the number one person. And match play is all about making birdies. No one makes more birdies than him, right? You're going to have a partner that's covering you. So, you go put a Nick Dunlap, Scotty Scheffler, that'd be tough to play right there, right? I mean, you got Steady Eddie Scotty who can birdie every hole, and you got Nick who can really birdie every hole, and he's going to make some mistakes, but Scotty's going to cover those mistakes. So I thought it was an opportunity for them to use this, but hopefully after this President's Cup, and they're trying to, as you said, they're trying to find some footing for it, but hopefully after this President's Cup, they'll move the date a little bit maybe to where, and they move it some based on where it is, but like I think Montreal and the Falls, what they were trying to land on, like move it and get it to where it's a better event, and let's get better players. You're right, the international team, the roster continues to improve. I mean, when you look at Sung Jae as always steady, and Adam Scott and Hideki and Tom Kim and Day had a good year, Ben Ann had a good year. I mean, they actually had guys who got left off who were a little upset. Our guys, we never heard anything from anyone. It's, hey, I made my money. I want to go home. I think some Nick Dunlap, he thought maybe he might make it. But it just seems like old guard, rinse and repeat. And we're winning President's Cup, playing with that. But we're not winning Ryder Cups. And this is the first President's Cup I think we enter into that we could legitimately lose because the top half of the roster is significantly better. The bottom half of the roster, it's a wash.
You pegged it on Dunlap. I'm scratching my head on that one. You're right. That is just reeks of old guard, like you said, just going to take the easy way out.
U.S. Amateur champion, right? That is a match play event. He wasn't the number one amateur in the world when he won the U.S. Amateur, right? He goes against Gordon Sargent, who was clearly having the best 2-year run of an amateur maybe in any time lately, and he just goes and beats it. Match play is a birdie fest. Nick Dunlap is a birdie fest, right? I think it's a huge miss on someone not going, guys, we've got to get him on this team.
Just the buzz it creates, just the excitement it creates. And as you said, if that victory had accounted, the points had counted, he would have been on the team anyway. So I'm with you 100%. And we're biased.
We are biased in this. We are. I will say that, but we are biased. We're not. He makes the team in black and white. If he counts the victory, if he was a pro, he was an amateur. You just should go, wow, he's on the team. He deserves it because he didn't even get the points for the FedEx Cup. That's almost like he picked it without knowing that. That's what I felt like. Hey, here's the top 12. Here's my roster. I don't really want to catch any flack from any of my peers put in the air. And I don't want what happened last year at the Ryder Cup to Zach Johnson to come back to me, because Jim Furyk is sort of path of least resistance guy, really calm, cool, collective. That's what I felt like it looked like, because you didn't really go down the list. And just thinking about growth of, but yeah, we are biased, but that's twice that's happened. Justin Thomas, those fall events you remember a few years back, didn't count towards the President's Cup standings. He got left off that team, could have been on that team. That was when he had won over in Asia. So two guys from Bama really, and younger in their careers at times, could have been on a President's Cup team. I truly think Furyk just went chalk.
Yeah, he did, and I'm very disappointed in it. As good a player as JT is, as you said, baby coming up, hasn't won. I had really no issue with him, even though I think he would have made the team better, him not being on the team. But you're right, Dunlap, that's an opportunity lost, and it's a shame too, because that would have brought a lot of extra eyeballs.
Hey, did Patrick Cantlay win 2 times this year? Did Russell Henley win 2 times this year? I mean, just go through all the lists.
That's right. And plus, they're boring. I mean, like you said, this is a guy who's got some. He's got some flair. He's got some charisma. Like you said, he can pull off shots. Yeah, he's 20 years old. I mean, it just and as you said too, Casey, a great point. It gives him experience for future international competitions. And
I will look this up, but I'll look this up, and I will look this up and report back next week. But the birdies made, I would guess, birdie per round average, Scotty Scheffler, Xander Schauffele, and Colin Morikawa probably, and Wyndham Clark are probably ahead of him, and maybe they're not, because he does make a lot of bogeys. I would be willing to guess that Nick Dunlap falls inside the top 6 on the U.S. team in birdies made. Match play, it doesn't matter. It does matter, but it doesn't matter. You're trying to birdie every hole, because it doesn't count the same as stroke play. It's just a hole off, right? If you try to make a birdie and make a double, you can go birdie the next hole, you get back to even. He naturally just makes birdies in droves. Match play is a birdie fest. And that's where it's sort of like, hey, that was a chalk pick. I really didn't do my research. I really didn't know how good this guy was. And I didn't realize that he would have made the team on points if that victory counted. That's why I was disappointed, because I feel like Nick truly earned his way on the team.
Yeah, I'm with you. And like you said, it looked like Furyk just, okay, you got to announce the picks. Just like you said, just turned it, had it already ready to go. I'm going to take the next 6 in line and let's go play. So anyway, we'll see. All right, let's get to the fall swing and the importance of it. Obviously, most of the superstars aren't going to play very much golf during these events, but you've talked about it before. Alabama's got a really strong, or a really big contingent of players on the PGA Tour that need to have some success in order to really set themselves up. So just from that aspect, how important is this swing for guys who aren't marquee players but are looking to establish themselves and a chance to pick up some wins?
Yeah, I mean, you really have that fall list of guys that are going to have to try to finish in that under that top 125 number. And this first event that kicks off this week, they'll play this event and then they have 2 weeks off because they play President's Cup 2 weeks later. Is Bud Colley's at 184. He's in the event. Stuart Sink 171. He's really winning on the Championship Tour. I'm shocked he's in the event. A lot of guys like this event because of Napa, Wine. Wilson Furs at 195. So that 125 number going to have to play good to get there. Pat Gazar at 132. And Lee Hodges is in the event at 78, ranked 78. So he's safe. Obviously wants to improve his position. If you finish between 70 and 125, you're not guaranteed. He's in a really good position for that to happen. And then Trey Mullinax has just got to have a good fall. I mean, just bottom line, due to rankings. And I mean, this is where you secure your card going forward.
So is he ready to come back and play now, Casey?
Yeah, sounds like he's back and ready to play. Okay. So he will get a full fall run here, and it runs from now until Sea Island at the end of November, and starts now. So it's really a big run, and he needs to have a really big fall. Not that he would have some. If you're a champion, if you've won on the PGA Tour, you have a past champion status, and you're always going to be able to get in a handful, 7, 8, 9 events, but. You know, he's trying to get to where he gets to at least like 20 events, and it's just a job, right? So these guys are all trying to obviously secure their card to secure their job, and that, you know, those guys that we're really following, when you get outside that 70 number, Davis Riley's 71, he's going to be safe. He's not in this event, but he's in the safe zone. The closer you are to that number, you're safe. Lee Hodges is safe. They both have won. They're still playing on multiple year exemptions. But when you really get it back down the list, like David Skins is a friend from over here, he's at 105. He needs to have a good fall, because that 105 can go to 125 and 126, and that's where you can't really finish outside of. But our other guys, they're really going to have to play well. Right. I mean, those guys that I mentioned, Pat Gazar at 132, he needs to he's only 7 spots away, but obviously the further you finish up, there's a priority list. And so that list is also important because 125 doesn't have the same priority as 124, 3, and so on. So we'll have something to watch this fall. There's about 7 guys from Alabama ties. Robbie Shelton's at 142. We've just got some guys. And then, if you're in 125 to 150 range, you earn conditional status. You'll get some events. But now there's PGA Tour U, and they're doing more exemptions. Some of those have dried up as well. But ultimately, these guys all need to play well. And I hope Bud Cauley, he's finally, I think, well and going to get a crack at this. And it'd be nice to see him have a good fall.
It sure would be. So we'll look forward to that for sure. So, all right. One final thought on the President's Cup, because like I said, they're trying to grow it. They're trying to, but as you kind of indicated, up against football season, it just sounds like you don't feel like there's going to be that much consumer buzz in terms of fans tuning into this event.
Yeah, I mean, the PGA Tour owns this event, so you're not going to have any LIV guys. Where I think the Ryder Cup, you'll have LIV guys going forward. And I think they're going to either have to move the event, but if the internationals were to finally win a President's Cup, it will probably give it some buzz. I hope that doesn't happen. But if they've ever had a chance to win relative to what you look at on paper, this is their year. I would say it's closer to from handicapping perspective, I would say it's closer to a push, pick 'em, than it's ever been.
All right, Casey. Appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir. Have a good one, Gary.
All right. Casey Smith on golf. 10:51 here on the Gary Harris Show. And we've got one segment to go. We're not going to get to Kayla DeBoer. I would have loved to, but we had enough phone calls that I wasn't going to cut those out. So we will hear from Coach again today at noon, and you'll hear his press conference live on the Miller's Edge. Also at 11:30, you've got the coordinators with Womack and Sheridan, and Wyatt will be in with that. I'm going to be headed over there to the press conference as soon as my show is over. So looking forward to that. We'll be back to wrap up this edition of Gary Harris. So if you want to give us a call, Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline, 205-342-9904. We'll be right back.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on Monday afternoon, starting at 2 p.m., we're going to recap the Alabama-South Florida game with all the Kayla DeBoer audio clips. We'll talk to Drew DeArmond. We'll talk to Barrett Salee. We'll talk to Martin Houston right here on The Game. T-Town Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program.
And plus, don't miss our grand opening celebration Friday, October the 11th through Sunday, October 13th. And check us out at academy.com with free shipping on purchases over $25.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
A big warm up today with a sunny sky, the high 88. Clear tonight, the low 64. Tomorrow sunny with a high at 89. Wednesday increasingly cloudy. Rain moving in by Wednesday night. The high Wednesday at 84. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Alabama Crimson Tide lives right here.
Down to the pylon. Touchdown, Alabama.
On Tide 100.9.
All right, 10:55. We are wrapping it up for this edition of the Gary Harris Show. It's been fun. A lot of great caller interaction this morning, and you expect that when Alabama has a game like they had on Saturday night. But the good news is they're 2-0. AP poll out yesterday. The Tide is ranked number 4. Interesting note here, I didn't mention this. You've got 6 of the top 7 teams in the country are from the SEC. How about that in the AP poll? So what does that tell you? Well, it tells you that a lot of great football, and you could be ranked number 6 in the country or number 7 in the country and be number 6 right now in terms of the pecking order in the SEC. That's how strong it is. All right, as I said, I'm headed over to the press conferences for Alabama football. Wyatt Fulton and Chase are going to be coming in here with T-Town Sports Daily from 11 until noon. And then, of course, the Miller's Edge, they'll have the Kayla DeBoer press conference for you live at noon. Fowler will be in with the game from 2 until 6. And I'll be back tomorrow morning with the Tuesday edition of the Gary Harris Show. Kayla Anderson with the Titans report. Boy, they blew it on Sunday against the Bears. And, of course, the Rocket Man, Drew DeArmond. More of your phone calls. That's coming up on Tuesday. All right, for Chase, I'm Gary. Thanks for listening, everybody. This has been a fun show. We'll be back to do it again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.